Jake had always been curious about the unknown. As a child, he had spent hours in his room, reading about strange artifacts and ancient ruins. But tonight, his curiosity would lead him to something far beyond his imagination. The museum was quiet, and the air felt heavy. The floorboards creaked under Jake's shoes as he walked down the dimly lit hallway. He had heard rumors about this particular exhibit, the one with the strange alien statuette tonight. He decided to see it for himself. The place was almost deserted, and the silence made the experience feel even more eerie. He stopped in front of a large display case that stood in the center of the room. Inside was an alien statue, about 6 feet tall, made of what seemed to be some sort of stone. Its features were sharp, its body humanoid, and it had an eerie, otherworldly look that made Jake feel uneasy. Its eyes were closed, and it stood perfectly still, as if frozen in time. Jake leaned in closer, drawn to the strange figure. The lights above flickered slightly, casting shadows across the room. He glanced around, making sure no one was watching. There was something about this statue that was different, something that sparked a sense of adventure in him. He chuckled, nervously, to himself. It's just a statue, he thought. It's nothing to be afraid of. Jake's fingers twitched as he reached out to gently poke the chest of the alien figure. He thought it would be funny, just a harmless joke. After all, it was just a statue, right? The cold, smooth surface felt oddly warm under his touch, almost as if it were alive. He pulled his hand back quickly, little startled. But something strange happened next. The stone beneath his fingers seemed to pulse, and a faint sound echoed through the room. Jake froze, his heart racing in his chest. Was it his imagination? Or had the statue just moved? He leaned in closer, squinting in the dim light, trying to make sense of what was happening. Before he could take another step, the entire room seemed to shake. A low hum filled the air, vibrating the floor beneath his feet. The statue's eyes opened, glowing a brilliant shade of blue. The alien's face, which had once been a rigid mask, now appeared to be softening as though it were coming to life. The stone figure twitched, and with a sudden crack, the chest of the statue split open, revealing something no one could have expected, a living, breathing alien inside. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The alien, a being of smooth, iridescent skin, stepped out from the broken stone shell. Its eyes locked onto Jake's, and a shiver ran down his spine. It was beautiful in a way he couldn't describe, but also terrifying. The creature's long, graceful limbs moved with unnatural speed as it stepped closer to him. The light above seemed to glow brighter, as if the room itself was reacting to its presence. Jake couldn't move. His body felt frozen in place, his mind trying to understand what he was seeing. He had read about alien encounters in books and watched countless sci-fi movies, but nothing prepared him for this moment. He had touched the statue, he had awakened it, and now the alien was real. The creature reached out with a hand that glowed faintly. Before Jake could react, it seized his wrist with startling strength. His pulse raced, and his breath quickened. Its touch was cold, yet there was an undeniable warmth in the way it held him. The alien's eyes narrowed as it studied him closely. And for a brief moment, Jake swore he saw something flicker behind them, a glimmer of recognition. Then, without warning, the alien leaned forward and whispered in his ear, "You shouldn't have done that?" Jake's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? What was going on? He had no answers, only questions that swirled in his mind like a storm. The alien's voice was soft but firm, and it sent a chill down his spine.
Ow.
It wasn't just a warning. It was a statement. The room seemed to grow colder as the alien's grip tightened. A sense of dread filled the air. Jake wanted to pull away, to run, but his feet felt like they were glued to the floor. He couldn't look away from the creature's eyes, which seemed to draw him in with an almost hypnotic force. But then, just as quickly as it had begun, the alien let go of his wrist and took a step back. For a moment, there was only silence. The alien didn't speak, and neither did Jake. The hum that had filled the room faded, and the lights flickered again, casting the museum into darkness. Jake's breath came in shallow gasps as he tried to process everything that had just happened. The statue was alive. The alien was real. And it had just warned him. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What had he awakened? And what did the alien want from him? With his heart still pounding in his chest, Jake turned to leave, but the alien's voice stopped him. Don't run. The words sent a shiver down his spine. It was clear now. He wasn't just a bystander. He had become part of something much bigger. The adventure had just begun. Jake's legs were unsteady as he stumbled away from the alien statue. His heart was still racing, the cold chill of fear gripping his chest. He glanced back over his shoulder at the glowing creature, but it was no longer a statue. It was alive. Standing in the center of the room like a living being from another world. The dim lights above flickered, casting strange shadows around the alien's silhouette, making its movements seem even more surreal. The alien watched him, its eyes still. Glowing with that unsettling blue light, its presence felt heavy in the room, as if the air itself had thickened. Jake couldn't look away, his gaze drawn to the creature as if something was pulling him in. Don't be afraid, the alien said softly, her voice like a distant melody. Words lingered in the air, vibrating in his ears. The voice was warm and comforting, but there was something deeper. Something ancient behind Itan urgency that sent a prickling sensation crawling up Jake's spine. Still unsure of what to do. Jake took a step back, trying to put some space between himself and the alien. He knew it was foolish to be scared, but everything about this moment felt unreal. But then, something shifted in her expression. The alien took a slow step toward him, and without warning, Jake found himself frozen in place again. "You are the one who set me free," she said, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made him feel exposed, as if she could see into his very soul. The alien reached out her hand, and Jake instinctively flinched. He had no idea what to expect, whether this being born of light and stone would harm him or offer him some cryptic gift. But instead of attacking, she extended her fingers toward him, offering an unspoken invitation. He hesitated, his mind racing. Why me? Why now? The alien's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, there was a flicker of understanding between them. It wasn't just that she was asking for his help, it was that she needed it. There was something ancient in her gaze, something that told him she was not just a lost traveler. She was here for a reason he could not yet understand. Her hand hovered inches from his. The stillness in the room grew heavy, each passing second stretching into eternity. Then, with a deep breath, Jake reached out. The moment their hands touched, a surge of energy shot through Jake's arm. It was as if the very air had charged with electricity, and he could feel every nerve in his body come alive. His fingers tingled, his skin burning where their hands met. The alien's touch was cool and smooth. Yet there was an undeniable warmth radiating from her. A warmth that pulsed with something ancient and powerful. He gasped, his breath catching in his throat. The alien's eyes widened slightly, and for a split second she seemed to hesitate. But then her lips parted in a soft smile, one that both reassured him and confused him further. "You feel it, don't you?" she whispered, her voice almost lost in the hum of energy that filled the room. "This connection between us, it was always meant to be." Jake didn't know what to say. He couldn't explain what he was feeling. How? The world around him seemed to shimmer with light, how his pulse echoed in his ears, as if it had synchronized with the alien's own rhythm. He felt alive in a way he never had before. It was as if a piece of him had always been missing, and now it was found. But the more he looked at the alien, the more questions arose. Why had she been trapped in stone? Why had she been waiting for him? Before Jake could speak, she pulled her hand back, breaking the connection. The sensation of energy fading left him feeling cold and disoriented. "There is so much you don't know," she said, her voice now tinged with sadness. "And time is running out." Jake's mind raced. "Time?" he asked, barely able to comprehend her words. "What do you mean? What is happening?" She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him in a way that made him feel vulnerable, as though she was weighing his every thought. "You freed me, but now you must understand." You are part of something much bigger than yourself. And there are forces that will stop at nothing to destroy us. Jake swallowed hard. The alien wasn't just a statue. She wasn't just a random encounter. This was something much more important, and he had no idea what he had gotten himself into. The alien took another step forward, her eyes glowing brighter. The galaxy is in danger, Jake, and you're the key. Whether you want to be or not, you're now involved in a war you cannot escape. The weight of her words pressed down on him. He wanted to run, to scream, to tell himself this was just some crazy dream. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. This was real. The alien, the energy, the connection, it was all real. The room grew darker, the shadows stretching as though reaching for them. Jake looked around, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't alone anymore, and he wasn't just a visitor in this strange world. He was part of it now, and the alien was counting on him, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he realized this was only the beginning. The silence between them was thick, almost suffocating. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he struggled to process everything that had happened. His mind kept returning to the same question. Why me? Why had this alien chosen him? What had he done to deserve this? The answers seemed just out of reach. Hanging like a fog he couldn't break through, the alien stood before him, her glowing blue eyes still fixed on his, studying him with an intensity that made Jake feel as if she were peeling back the layers of his soul. It was as though she could see his every fear, every hope, every hidden corner of his mind. And in that moment, Jake realized that she wasn't just reading his thoughts. She was trying to tell him something important. I know you're confused, the alien said softly, her voice a soothing whisper that seemed to calm the storm inside him. But this is more than just a random meeting. You're part of something ancient, something that's been unfolding for centuries. Jake swallowed, his throat dry. He wanted to ask questions, so many questions, but his voice caught in his throat. The alien seemed to sense his hesitation, and with a small smile, she stepped closer to him. Her presence was overwhelming, and for the first time, Jake felt a strange sense of peace wash over him despite the chaos that surrounded them. I was born in the far reaches of the galaxy, in a place where the stars themselves seemed to whisper of something lost. She continued, her voice distant as though she were remembering a past long buried. I was the keeper of an ancient artifact, a key to unimaginable power, but it was never meant to stay with me. It was meant to be protected. Jake's eyebrows furrowed. Protected? From who? The alien's eyes flickered for a moment, as if reluctant to reveal the truth. Then, with a deep breath, she continued. The artifact is no ordinary object. It is the core of an ancient civilization that once ruled the galaxy. They were destroyed, but their legacy lived on through the artifact. The power contained within it can shape the fate of entire worlds. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This was far beyond anything he had imagined. And you're the guardian, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she answered solemnly. I was meant to protect it, to keep it hidden. But something went wrong. Someone discovered its power, and they wanted it for themselves. They wanted to use it to conquer the galaxy. They trapped me in that statue to keep me from stopping them. Jake felt a surge of anger rise within him. Now you're free? The alien nodded. Yes, but it's not enough. The ones who trapped Meath, they are still out there, and they are coming for the artifact. They know I've been freed, and they will stop at nothing to take it from me. The weight of her words sank in. Jake felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted. What had started as a strange encounter in an old museum had turned into something far darker. The fate of the galaxy, the power of an ancient artifact, and an enemy that would destroy everything it was all too much to grasp. Yet here he was, caught in the middle of it. I don't understand, Jake said, his voice shaking with disbelief. Why me? What do you need from me? The alien's gaze softened, and she placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle but firm, grounding him in a way he didn't fully understand. You have a role to play, Jake. You were meant to be part of this. The connection between us when you touched me, when you awakened MIT, was no accident. Jake felt a strange warmth spread through him, almost as if the alien's words were unlocking something deep inside him, a part of him that had been hidden, buried for years. The connection he had felt when they first touched it was growing stronger now, almost as if he were linked to her in a way he couldn't explain. "Why am I the one?" he asked again, his voice barely more than a whisper. "What makes me so special?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter, and for a brief moment, Jake saw something flicker in her gaze, a glimmer of recognition, as if she knew something he didn't. "Because you are the key. The artifact has chosen you. It has been waiting. For someone like you," Jake's mind reeled. The artifact. What was she talking about? Is he really the key to something that powerful? He couldn't wrap his mind around it. "Who are these people who want the artifact?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. "What do they want with it?" "They are a force unlike any you've ever encountered," the alien said. "They were once part of the civilization that created the artifact. They betrayed their own people, using the power for greed and conquest. They were exiled, but now they are back, and they want the artifact to finish what they started." Jake's heart sank. He had thought the world he knew was complicated. This was something entirely different. The alien stepped closer, her face filled with urgency. "Jake, time is running out. They're already on their way. We don't have much time. ... Jake felt the weight of her words press down on him. It was all too much, too fast. But one thing was clear: this was only the beginning. And whatever happened next, it would change everything. Jake's mind raced as he absorbed everything the alien had just revealed. The stakes were higher than he could have imagined, and he could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him like a heavy stone. He had been drawn into a cosmic struggle, one that reached across galaxies and spanned centuries. But just as the weight of this revelation settled in, an unexpected sound shattered the stillness, the sound of something heavy crashing against the walls of the museum. The alien's face changed in an instant, her expression shifting from calm to something more primal. Her eyes flashed, the glowing blue intensifying. "They found us," she said, her voice urgent, her breath quickening, before Jake could even react. The lights flickered violently, throwing the room into darkness for a split second. A deep rumble shook the walls and the floor beneath. His feet trembled, as though the museum itself were coming alive. "What's happening?" Jake gasped, his heart pounding. He wanted to move, but his legs felt like they were rooted to the spot. The alien's gaze remained fixed on the door. Jake followed her line of sight. There, in the distance, he saw the faint outline of a figure, tall, shadowy, and moving quickly toward them. The creature didn't walk, glided like a phantom. In the night, its presence chilling the air. Jake's blood ran cold. "They're here," the alien said, her voice tight with fear. "We have to move, now." Without warning, the alien grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him toward the exit. Her grip was strong, almost desperate, and Jake had no choice but to follow. The room seemed to grow colder, and an unnatural chill crawled across his skin. It was as if the very air was charged with danger. "Who are they?" Jake asked, breathless as they ran down the narrow corridor. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the dim lights barely illuminated the path ahead. He could hear the sound of footsteps echoing behind them, getting closer, faster. "Their kind once ruled the galaxy," the alien answered between quick breaths, her voice tinged with bitterness. "But they betrayed everything. They're the ones who imprisoned me, and now they want the artifact. They'll stop at nothing to take it." Jake's mind whirled. Betrayed everything. He didn't have time to question it further. The shadows behind them grew longer, and the footsteps echoed like a ticking clock in his ears. Closing in with every passing second, they turned a corner, and Jake felt his heart skip a beat. The narrow hallway ahead was blocked. There was no way forward. The alien's eyes flashed with frustration, and she pulled him toward a small door to the side, hidden behind a stack of old crates. She slammed her hand against the door, and it creaked open just enough to squeeze through. "Come on," she urged, pulling him inside. Jake followed her into the dark room, his mind racing with panic. What was this place? And how long could they stay hidden? The door clicked shut behind them, and for a moment there was nothing but silence. The alien stood still, listening intently, her eyes scanning the room. Jake tried to catch his breath. Are we safe here? He asked, his voice trembling. The alien didn't answer immediately. She was too focused, her sharp eyes darting from shadow to shadow. After a long pause, she whispered, "For now. But we don't have much time." Suddenly a loud crash echoed from the hallway outside, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. They were close. Too close. "We have to move," she said urgently. "They're not far behind." Jake felt the cold sweat on his brow as he followed her deeper into the darkness. His heart pounded in his chest as they weaved through narrow passages, ducking beneath low beams and jumping over piles of debris. Every step seemed to take them farther from safety, but there was no turning back. The chase had begun, and there was no telling how long it would last. They emerged into a larger, open space, an old storage room filled with crates and boxes, their contents a mystery. The alien moved with grace, her every step calculated and deliberate. She was in control, but Jake could see the tension in her every movement. She was trying to keep the fear at bay, but he could tell she was just as terrified as he was. "Where are we going?" Jake asked, glancing over his shoulder. "To the exit," the alien replied, "but it won't be easy. They'll be expecting us." As if on cue, another crash sounded behind them, and the alien's expression hardened. She was done running. With a sharp motion, she turned to face the door. "I need you to trust me, Jake," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "What happens next will change everything. Are you ready?" Jake swallowed hard. His mind was a blur of questions, but one thing was certain, he couldn't back out now. The moment he had touched that statue, his life had changed forever. And now he was in this fight, whether he was ready or not. "Ready as I'll ever be," he said, his voice steady, though his hands were still shaking. The alien nodded, a brief flash of pride in her eyes. Without another word, she stepped forward, and the two of them burst through the door, ready to face whatever dangers awaited them. Behind them, the footsteps grew louder. They were closing in fast. The chase was on. The pounding footsteps grew louder as Jake and the alien sprinted down the narrow corridors, their breathing heavy and ragged. Something about the alien's presence grounded him, made him feel like there was a purpose to all of this. Still, the closer they got to the exit, the more he could feel the air thickening with danger. He wasn't sure how much longer they could keep running. Finally, they burst through a small rusted door, emerging into a hidden courtyard behind the museum. The sky above was a deep purple. The moon, barely visible through a veil of thick clouds, was eerily quiet outside, like the calm before a storm. The alien pulled Jake to a stop and turned to face him, her eyes once glowing with urgency, now softened. She looked at him with a strange mixture of trust and sorrow. "This is it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake glanced around, trying to catch his breath. "Where are we going?" The alien's gaze never wavered from his face. "We need to get to the artifact. It's the only way to stop them." Jake furrowed his brow, the weight of her words sinking in. "What is it? The artifact? What exactly is it?" The alien hesitated, her gaze drifting to the shadows as if sensing they were being watched. "It's more than just a relic or an object. It's a weapon, one capable of reshaping entire galaxies. It has the power to create, to destroy, to control everything." Jake's stomach twisted. The implications of what she was saying felt too big to process, too dangerous to even comprehend. "So why didn't you just use it to stop these people before?" he asked, his voice laced with confusion. The alien's eyes clouded over with a mix of regret and something darker, something ancient. "Because I couldn't. I was bound to protect it, not to use it. See, the artifact isn't just a weapon, it's also a curse. It's tied to the very fabric of the universe. Whoever controls it doesn't just control power, they control fate itself." Jake's heart sank. So it's a choice of who controls fate. But why would anyone want to hold that kind of power? The alien's face hardened as she spoke, her voice a low, resonant growl. Because some are willing to sacrifice anything, even the very universe, for power. These beings, the ones who trapped me, they are survivors of an ancient empire. It's one that fell because they misused the artifact's power. They want it back. And they will destroy everything in their path to do so. Jake swallowed, the fear creeping into his bones once again. What do you need from me? The alien met his gaze, her expression serious, her voice intense. You are the only one who can stop them. The artifact chose you, Jake. When you touched me, when you freed me, unlocked something deep within you, connection to the artifact. A power you can't yet fully understand. Jake recoiled, trying to grasp what she was saying. He was the key. He had no special skills, no powers, nothing that could stop an ancient galaxy-spanning empire. He was just an ordinary guy who'd stumbled upon a broken statue. I don't get it, Jake said, his voice shaky. How is this possible? I'm not anything special. The alien's eyes softened, and for the first time, she stepped closer to him. Her touch was cool against his skin, her presence somehow both calming and electrifying. You are more than you think, Jake. You were chosen for this because of who you are. The artifact has been waiting for someone like you, someone with the right connection to the universe, to its balance. That's why you were able to free me. You've tapped into something ancient, something powerful. Jake was still trying to process her words when a low rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. The sky overhead seemed to darken, and the distant sounds of an approaching storm began to echo in the air. Something was coming. The alien stiffened, her hand instinctively going to her side, as though preparing for battle. They've found us, she whispered, her voice low and tense. Jake looked around, his heart racing. From the shadows, figures began to emerge, dark humanoid shapes that seemed to move with unnatural grace. They were close. To close. The alien grabbed his arm, her grip firm but urgent. Don't have time. We have to get to the artifact now. Before they do. Before Jake could ask another question, the alien was pulling him toward an old, abandoned building in the far corner of the courtyard. It had been untouched by time, its stone walls weathered and cracked, but there was something unmistakably powerful about it. This was at the place where the artifact was hidden. As they neared the building, Jake could feel the air grow heavy with tension, the weight of the impending confrontation settling on his chest. He knew the alien was right. The only way to stop these ancient enemies, to stop the artifact from falling into the wrong hands, was to face whatever was coming. Jake's heart pounded as the door to the building creaked open, the darkness within, swallowing them whole. But as the door shut behind them, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was just beginning. The ancient stone door creaked shut behind them with a deafening groan, sealing them inside the dark chamber. Jake's eyes struggled to adjust to the thick, suffocating darkness that surrounded them. His heart still raced from the chase, the weight of the alien's revelation settling heavily on his shoulders. But now, a new fear gnawed at him, the uncertainty of what was to come. The alien, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light, turned to face him. Her expression was grim, her eyes scanning the room, every shadow, every corner, like a predator hunting its prey. Her posture was alert, like a warrior preparing for a battle, and in that moment, Jake realized that whatever lay ahead would be unlike anything he had ever experienced. We're safe, here for now, she said, her voice steady, but filled with a quiet urgency. Jake nodded, though the uncertainty in his gut refused to abate. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could form the words, a loud crash from somewhere outside the chamber made him jump. The alien's eyes flickered with recognition. She had sensed it before Jake could. Without a word, she moved swiftly, her body graceful yet filled with purpose. Jake followed instinctively, his feet barely making a sound against the cold stone floor as they moved deeper into the hidden sanctuary. The air around them seemed to thicken, charged with energy, as if the building itself was alive with an ancient force. The walls of the chamber were etched with strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dark, as if they were warning of something dangerous and ancient. We don't have much time, the alien whispered urgently, her breath shallow. They are close. They can't get the artifact. If they do, everything will change. and not in a way we want. Jake's throat went dry. Who were they? These enemies she spoke of, he had no idea how powerful they were, how relentless they could be. He felt small, vulnerable, caught up in something that seemed too big for him to understand. But there was something in the alien's eyes, something that told him he couldn't back away now. They are coming for the artifact. Jake, she continued, her voice filled with quiet determination. They will destroy everything in their path to get to it. These beings, these enemies, they are not like anything you've encountered. They were once rulers, conquerors of galaxies. They used the artifact to shape the universe to their will, until it betrayed them. And they never forgave it. The alien paused, her gaze distant, as if reliving something painful from her past. Jake watched her, trying to make sense of the story, of the ancient betrayal that she spoke of. But there was no time to dwell on it. Something was stirring. In the shadows of the chamber, Jake felt it before he saw it. A shift in the air, a pulse of energy that hummed beneath his feet. The enemy was near. Suddenly a voice, low, cold, and dripping with malice, echoed through the room, as if it had always been there, waiting. You cannot hide forever, the voice said, its words stretching like a dark thread through the space. The artifact belongs to us. Jake froze, his blood running cold. He glanced at the alien, who had gone completely still, her eyes narrowed. She had heard it too. This was no ordinary voice. It was something ancient, a being that had lived long before Jake had ever been born. And then, from the shadows they emerged. The first figure was tall. Too tall. Possibly so, its body covered in shimmering black armor that seemed to ripple. With energy, its face was concealed by a dark helmet, but Jake could feel the malicious presence radiating from it. Behind it, others appeared, more of them, each one more terrifying than the last. Humanoid figures cloaked in shadows, their glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. The alien's stance shifted, becoming more defensive, her body tense. She turned to Jake, her voice a harsh whisper. Stay behind me, don't make a sound. Jake nodded, though the terror that gripped his chest was nearly overwhelming. His instincts told him to run, but he stayed rooted to the spot, frozen in. Placed by the alien's warning, the lead figure stepped forward, its voice deep and cold, reverberating through the room. We knew you would come, Guardian, but we didn't expect a human to stand in our way. How quaint. The alien's eyes flared with defiance, but she held her ground. You've lost, Kaler. The artifact will never be yours. The figure, Kaler, laughed a low, menacing sound that echoed throughout the chamber. You are naive. The artifact is not merely an object to be guarded. It is a key that can unlock the very essence of existence itself. You should have never been entrusted with it. Kaler's hand shot out, his fingers crackling with dark energy. The air around him shifted, warping as though reality itself was bending to his will. The alien took a step back, raising her own hand in defense, her body glowing with light as she summoned her own power. Jake watched in stunned silence as the two forces collided, the alien's light battling against Kaler's darkness. The clash of energies reverberating throughout the chamber was like watching the universe itself tear at the seams. Why do you want it? Jake finally asked, his voice shaky but filled with defiance. What will you do with it? Aluza's eyes locked onto him, and for a moment, Jake felt like the figure was staring straight into his soul. You are more than just a human. Your Atula means to an end, and once we have the artifact, we will reshape everything. Time, reality, the very laws of existence. All of it will bend to our will. The alien's voice rang out sharply. You will never control it. The artifact cannot be wielded by those who seek to destroy. Kaler's gaze flicked back to the alien, a cruel smile spreading across his face. We shall see. And just like that, the battle intensified, the air crackling with raw, unfathomable power. Jake was no longer a bystander. He was in the heart of the conflict, caught between forces he couldn't begin to understand. The fate of the galaxy, the artifact, the alien, it was all tangled up in this fight. And for the first time, Jake realized the truth. There was no escaping this battle, and he was part of it, whether he liked it or not. The chamber was filled with chaos, the air thick with the sound of crackling energy. Jake's heart pounded as he watched the alien and Calor's dark forces clash. The alien's light, radiant and fierce, met Calor's dark energy in a fierce explosion that sent shockwaves through the room. Every time their powers collided, the space around them warped walls shattered. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Jake stood at the edge of the battle, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. He had never been part of anything like this. He was just a regular guy, an ordinary human thrown into an extraordinary, life-altering situation. And now, standing in the heart of a cosmic war, Jake realized something: there was no going back. The alien, despite her incredible power, was struggling. Calor's energy was dark, relentless, and ancient. She was beginning to falter under the weight of it, her movements slower, more strained with each passing second. Jake could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the toll this battle was taking on. "Her Calor, stop," she shouted, her voice full of authority but laced with desperation. "This will end in ruin. The artifact is not for you." Calor's mocking laugh echoed through the room as he pushed against her light with a twisted grin. "You are deluded, Guardian. The artifact was meant for me soon. It will be mine. You cannot stop it." The chamber quaked again, and Jake staggered, feeling the very foundation of the room shaking. But his gaze remained fixed on the alien. She had told him she needed him. The artifact had chosen him. But now, standing here in the midst of this battle, Jake could feel the weight of her words. "You are the key." The alien was right. He was tied to this, whether he wanted to be or not. And now, as the battle raged on, the decision fell on him. Jake's eyes darted to the artifact, hidden in the far corner of the chamber. It was glowing with a strange, pulsating light, an energy that seemed to hum in tune with his heartbeat. It was calling to him, urging him to act, to do something, anything, that would end this conflict. He could feel the connection between them, stronger now than ever. He could feel the power it held, like an ocean just beneath the surface of his skin, waiting to be unlocked. He turned to the alien, who was barely holding her ground against Calor. Her face was streaked with sweat, her movements slowing. "What do I do?" Jake asked, his voice urgent. "How do I use it?" The alien's eyes were filled with a strange kind of sadness. "You must choose, Jake. The artifact cannot be wielded by those who are not prepared to understand it. Its power comes with great sacrifice." Jake's breath caught in his throat. Sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice? But before he could ask, Calor's voice boomed again, cutting through the tension in the room. "There is no time for hesitation. Give me the artifact, and your world will be spared. Refuse, and you will all perish." The alien's energy flickered, her body weakening. "Jake," she whispered, barely able to stand. "You have to decide now. You're the only one who can stop him." Jake's mind raced. The weight of the decision was suffocating. If he used the artifact, he could stop Calor, save the alien, and maybe even the galaxy. But what would that mean for him? What would it cost? He wasn't ready for this, wasn't prepared for the responsibility of holding the universe in his hands. But as he looked at the alien, her eyes pleading, he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just about him anymore. It never had been. He'd been pulled into something much larger, something beyond his understanding. And now, the only way out was through. With a deep breath, Jake stepped forward, moving toward the artifact. He could feel its power surging through him, strange warmth filling his body as he reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed against its surface, a flood of energy erupted within him. He gasped, the sensation overwhelming, as if every molecule of his being was being pulled into the artifact. The light grew brighter, and Jake's mind was filled with visions, glimpses of distant galaxies, ancient civilizations, and dark, powerful forces stretching across time. Then, the truth became clear to him. The artifact was more than just a key, was a force of balance. It was meant to guide, to protect, to reshape the fabric of existence itself. But it could only be wielded by someone who understood the responsibility of that power. Someone who knew that the fate of countless lives could be altered by a single choice. Jake's heart raced as the alien's voice echoed in his mind. "You have the power to reshape the future, but you must understand the consequences." The decision was his. the future of everything rested on his next move. Without hesitation, Jake closed his eyes and reached deep within himself. He called upon the energy of the artifact, pulling it into his body, letting it fill every fiber of his being. The power surged within him, and in that moment, Jake understood. He wasn't just fighting for his own survival, he was fighting for the future of everything. With a final forceful push, Jake released the artifact's energy. Engulfing the entire chamber. The energy rippled through the air, sending shockwaves that tore through Caller's dark power. The chamber shook violently as the light consumed everything, sweeping away the darkness that had held them captive. When the light finally faded, the chamber was still. Jake fell to his knees, exhausted, his body drained from the power he had just unleashed. He glanced up, his eyes meeting the alien's. She was standing, her expression a mix of relief and gratitude. "You did it," she whispered. Dadala, meanwhile, was gone, vanished into the darkness, his forces no longer a threat. But Jake knew the victory came with a cost. The artifact's power was overwhelming, and he had given a part of himself to wield it. "I've made the choice, and the consequences of that choice would be felt across the universe." The battle was over, but the journey was just beginning.